Good morning. You may have gathered that I'm a metalhead. I'm wearing a Slayer shirt, which should be a bit of a clue. Nevertheless, I'm also a little bit Posh. You might have gathered that as well. But it has occurred to me that I don't know any Posh metalheads. I've tried to rack my brains to think of people I know who are Posh, who like metal, and I simply can't think of anybody. So why is that? Well, metal has its roots in the working classes. It began in places like Birmingham and Barnsley amongst people who worked in factories, who did manual jobs. In the late 70s, music journalists were really enthusiastic about punk rock. They were really fascinated by punk. Yet amongst working class people, heavy rock, progressive rock, and the emerging metal scene were much more popular. They were what working class men were more interested in listening to than all that radical punk stuff. And I think because of its working class ethos, metal was very much looked down upon. If people want to be posh, if that's their aspiration, they want to be refined, cultured, and sophisticated, and those are the opposite of what metal is. Metal is very raw, very primal. Think about the sound. It's very percussive. You've got the pounding drums and the hard driving riffs. It's very primal. There are more complex forms of metal, progressive metal, technical death metal, progressive death metal bands like Opeth, and avant-garde black metal bands, and some of those genres have produced some really complex, experimental, really interesting music. Nevertheless, they're still grounded in the basic structure of metal with the pounding drums and the riffs. It doesn't really depart from that format, that template. And of course, the people in those bands making complex experimental music are still people who love Motorhead and Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. Metal can never really abandon its working class ethos. And so I think that's why you just don't get posh people who like metal. Anyway, thanks very much for listening to me. Enjoy your